Hey everyone, this video is going to be all about everything new announced for Halo Infinite during Microsoft's events this week. We did see the initial Halo Infinite multiplayer reveal yesterday during their E3 press conference, and we saw a lot of more news today in the Halo Infinite multiplayer overview. There's also a Halo Waypoint blog post and an Xbox Wire page with all bits of details of Halo Infinite. So the goal of this video is to have every major piece of news announced between all of those sources in one place. I'm going to post links in the description for all of these sources if you want to go read or watch them individually. I highly recommend you see the Halo Infinite multiplayer overview video because that is just so good. So let's go ahead and jump into all of the major news. First is they announced this prior to Xbox's E3 event. I think they announced this like 6 months ago, but I think this is the first time the masses have heard that Halo Infinite's multiplayer is going to be free to play and it's going to have cross-play and cross progression, and they're going to launch at the same time on console and PC. So this is fantastic. They're removing as many barriers as possible for players to jump in and enjoy Halo Infinite, and I think that's great. I think that's exactly what Halo needed in order to be successful again, in order for Halo to be mainstream again, because Halo 5 was not the answer that we thought that it was going to be, so this is really exciting. They said there's going to be tons of customization for your Spartans cosmetically. You can customize all different pieces of armor. Armor sets, shoulders, arms, legs, visors, helmets, chest pieces, everything that we know and love, but it's going to get even better. They said that there's already millions of customization options just on day one content, and there's going to be seasons where you can unlock content simply by playing the game. I'm not sure if that's completing challenges or doing objectives or playing game types, but whatever the case may be, there are seasons. Season 1 has been announced to be called the Heroes of Reach. That is very similar to what happened in the Master Chief Collection, so I think what they did for Master Chief Collection is kind of an outline of what we are going to expect in Halo Infinite, and I think that's good because it's going to be a lot of content. You can customize your Spartan, the vehicles, the weapons in the game cosmetically. None of the customization options will impact gameplay in any way. But what's really interesting is you can customize all of this stuff in the game itself. You can do it on the desktop through the web browser, and there's also going to be a Halo Waypoint mobile app, and you can customize your Spartan and vehicles on the go. I thought that was pretty cool. I would probably mess around with that when I'm like standing in line at the drive-thru or something. Halo Infinite has announced that they're going to have battle passes, and at first I was a little confused or maybe concerned on how this would work, but the way they're doing this is perfect. Once you own the battle pass, it never expires. You can also purchase old battle passes, so it's not going to be fear of missing out for a player. Let's say you don't play Halo Infinite until midway through 2022 or something, but you still want to unlock Season 1 content through the paid battle pass. You can simply just buy a battle pass and apply it to that first season of content, and then you can begin or acquire all the content in that battle pass. I thought that was excellent. That way no players are left behind. No one has fear of missing out. You don't necessarily have to be there during launch. And I think that's great. Again, they're removing more barriers, making it as easy as possible for the player. There's also no loot boxes or randomized elements of chance for cosmetic stuff. You know what you're going to get before you either pay or unlock that content. And again, there's no impact on gameplay for any of the stuff that you unlock in Halo Infinite. Moving on to the multiplayer, what they keep calling to be the sandbox of Halo Infinite, they said that it's going to have Halo 3 style of equipment, but what's a little different, and they said the way they're modernizing equipment is that equipment is now going to be placed in an inventory. So what that means is as soon as you pick up an overshield, you're not necessarily going to immediately activate the overshield. You have the potential to activate it later. And, let's say you pick it up when you're all by yourself and then you run around a corner and you see the whole enemy team. At that point, you can then activate your overshield. Now, there is a cost for doing this per se. Let's say someone takes you out or eliminates you before you have the chance to activate the overshield. You're then going to drop your equipment, and the enemy team could potentially pick it up and then use it. I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was a great way. It's almost as if the inventory or the equipment is almost like another weapon as you drop it. Vehicles also now have behavior based on their damage. So what they were showing is you could potentially blow off the tires of a Warthog, and the Warthog would kind of slide around because it obviously doesn't have any more traction, or it's tilted to one side, or the Warthog could catch on fire and you can continue using it until it either blows up or becomes unusable anymore. And I thought that was just really neat, and I think that's a more modernized way of approaching vehicular combat in Halo. They also unveiled the Razorback, which they said is like the cousin to the Warthog. And this is actually so cool. It has storage on the vehicle, and you can use this to store weapons, fusion coils, turrets, objectives. I'm assuming that's what they mean by, like, when you play Capture the Flag, you could probably just put the flag on the Razorback and then hop in the driver's seat and drive off. I think that's just so neat, and they're showing like a Razorback with 4 or 5 Spartans in it. I think that's just perfect, and it's exactly what we needed for Big Team Battle. Speaking of Big Team Battle that is returning into Halo Infinite, I think they said it's going to be 12v12 for a total of 24 players. I didn't catch it here in my notes, but what's really interesting about Big Team Battle, and probably other game types as well, is vehicles are not just going to immediately spawn just out of thin air on the battlefield anymore. There's going to be Pelicans and Phantoms that are going to fly into the battlefield and drop the vehicles for players to use. There's also going to be drop pods. If you remember the Delta Halo mission from Halo 2, those drop pods are going to fall from the sky and land on the battlefield, and those are going to contain various power weapons. And you're not going to necessarily need to memorize the location of where these drop. I'm not sure if these are static locations or if they're going to change dynamically throughout the course of a game, but there are going to be what's dubbed the person AI, and it's someone that's going to be telling you where and when these drops are going to occur. Elaborate a little bit more about the person AI. This is such a genius idea, and I don't know why this was never implemented in a Halo game until now. But the person AI is something that you can customize the voice and personality of, and it's almost as like you're a Spartan and you're choosing your own AI to be your companion on the battlefield. And this is going to be something that can give you tips on what's happening within the game, not necessarily the announcer that we know and love in Halo, but just something when, if let's say a teammate picks up a flag, your person AI is going to let you know that they picked up that flag and you should protect them and lead them to the objective. Things like that is what the person AI is going to do, and I'm really excited to see what sort of customization options they allow as time goes on. I would love for Sergeant Johnson to be a person AI. Only time will tell. They added Johnson into ODST Firefight, so he has shown up in later games in this series, so I hope he shows up. They elaborated also a little bit more on bots in Halo for the first time, so you can now have bots in custom games in Halo Infinite. I think this is just a great idea. You can customize how many friendly bots are going to be on your team, how many enemy bots are going to be on the opposing team, down to customizations on their weapons and their skill set. And I think that's going to be great for streamers, for content creators, for people who want to learn how maps work, the dynamic of, again, the Halo sandbox, how it all operates, how everything together incorporates and moves within all the different aspects of this multiplayer mode. And there's also other things too, like there's weapon drills, so you can try out different weapons, and movement, kind of like courses, training courses where you can try out movement in Halo Infinite, and you can just run around and see how all the maps work with just a couple of bots. I don't know, they didn't elaborate and say if bots would be able to work in Forge, but they did say later in this video that they're excited to see what the community creates in Forge. So I wonder if maybe in an update, maybe not necessarily at launch, but I'm hoping that bots will be something that players can put in Forge made maps, because that would be really cool to see what the community can come up with those two pieces of features. Finally, some technical details about what they unveiled here. There's 120 FPS support for the Xbox Series X. That was announced previously, but they're trying to elaborate a little bit more for the masses who are watching this sort of content. So that's great to see that you're going to have such a high frame rate. We're going to see the return of split screen and local area network multiplayer servers for Halo Infinite. And I don't think that this feature is going to be used quite a bit by players as much as it used to, just due to the way Xbox Live is and how technology has evolved in the last 20 years. But a lot of people, including myself, were introduced to Halo through split-screen multiplayer or showing up at a LAN party. So I'm really glad to see those features return. Those are really, I would dub legacy features, features that I don't think a lot of people are going to use as much today as they did back then. I could be wrong, but I'm excited that these are coming back and they do belong in Halo, and that's great to see that they are returning. Also, just an interesting point that they had in this is we're going to be saying goodbye to red versus blue indicator for the teams. You're now going to be, they said there's going to be a new friend or foe system for multiplayer games. And they didn't elaborate on that. I'm not sure if you're going to be outlined red when your opponent like looks at you on their crosshairs or something. I think that's something we'll understand pretty clearly once we were able to play the game. And from what I saw in this gameplay, it looked so smooth and so good. I am really, really excited. And they announced that there's going to be new maps, new game modes, and of course new seasons of cosmetic content coming after launch. And they're going to be, I think that they said that this is now the 10-year plan of Halo. So my assumption is they're going to support this for at least 10 years. And I am really, really excited. And I hope you are as well. I hope that that's every major point from all of these sources that I covered here in the video. I may have missed a couple of things here and there, but I love to know your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below. Are you hyped for Halo Infinite? Because I was a little worried about the game, especially after the reveal last year. But after seeing all this stuff today and yesterday, I am extremely excited for this game. I think it's going to be really successful. It's launching on Game Pass day one for the campaign. Multiplayer will be free to play for forever. And I think this is going to be really awesome stuff. Okay, if there's any more interesting Halo Infinite news that comes out between now and release, I'll be covering it on the channel. So if you like this video, please feel free to leave a like and potentially subscribe to the channel. And I'm really excited to see what comes out towards the end of the year. All right, that does it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you, James.